Good evening, salam, adab, namaskar. Once again, welcome, a very warm welcome to a new episode of PLG 173, which is celebrating the legend. And the legend selected this month is Mark Twain. As you know, that PLG motto is to connect people with literature. And one of the very important aspect of connecting with literature is to read and to know about our legends. This is very important because most of us here are poets and writers. And as I always say, that unless we read our legends, we read excessively, we do a lot of reading, our writing is not going to improve. And by doing so, our writing will also improve, and we will understand, learn our legends, and that will invariably reflect in our writings. Our writing quality will go up. Now, it's in this busy life, it's very difficult to find time to read in depth about the different legends. So what we do is, as you all know, we select a legend every month, and we all read a poem or a part of his or her writing. And our anchor throws some information and light over the life and the work of the writer or the legend selected. And that's how, in a period of 2 or 2.5 hours, we come to know a lot about a legend. We read the legend's creations, and thus we acquire a lot of knowledge about the legend. And I feel that this is one of the best way to know a legend in a very short time. And this episode is dedicated to Mark Twain, an American humorist, journalist, literary critic, and novelist. Twain is most widely known for his novels, but he has written a lot of poems also. And today, I think we are going to learn to read more about his poetries, because the poetry is something which can be read in a short period of time. Whereas novels, it takes a lot of time, and we don't have that much of time because our time period is limited to approximately 2 hours, and we have around 16 participants. But I'm sure Likita will give some information about his work on other works, so we will have a complete information about Mark Twain by the end of this program. I do not want to say more about Mark Twain, because that's the thing which our anchor does. And I've seen that if I talk more about the poet, it overlaps, the information overlaps. And the people who are, I don't want to recite also anything, because when I recite anything, that again overlaps with some of the people who are going to recite today. So that's it from my side, and I take you to our anchor of the day, who is none other than Likita. She is a very talented young girl of this group. And such programs, we normally select a person who can do justice to this kind of program, who can do some in-depth analysis of the life and the work of the legend. And it's an English program. So who do you think can be better than our Likita? So that's why we have selected Likita. Over to you, Likita. I would request everybody to welcome her with a big round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you, sir. So kind of you, sir. Thank you. All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Likita, here with you again to celebrate a wonderful poet, Mark Twain. Before I begin with today's poem, I'd like to thank Simmi Auntie and Tufail sir for this opportunity. I was in fact very jittery and nervous yesterday, wondering if I'll be able to do a good job. But thanks a lot for giving me a chance, Auntie. Thank you so much. Let's start with today. Celebrating the legend. The tradition of such events usually start with giving information about the poet, right? That's how it usually goes. But isn't it too monotonous and boring? I'm just gonna bring out information from Wikipedia, read it out, and you're just listening. That's boring. I was thinking, why not make it a little interesting? Now, I'm a 20-year-old girl in 20, an era filled with technology and gadgets. If at all I want to get to know a celebrity, I would, or rather any person in this generation would Google that celebrity, right? Google. There's immediate access to information about any celebrity. But Mark Twain was considered a successful writer in 1865. They didn't have Google to rely on back then. So I think it's okay to admit that some of the information we have of Mark Twain doesn't promise to be genuine, does it? Which is why I've prepared something special for y'all. What if we have the opportunity to interview Mark Twain? Yes, that's exactly what we will be doing today. I can't really get replies from him due to obvious reasons, which is why I have prepared a few interview questions, and I've tried to assume his personality based on his works and stitched his replies together. So basically, it will be me framing questions and me concluding on answers based on the imaginative Mark Twain personality taken from his works. So let's get started. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Likita, here with you again to celebrate a wonderful poet, Mark Twain. May I repeat, he isn't really here, so I can't ask the question to his face, which is why each and every one of you here is a Mark Twain in your own essence and form. I'm asking questions and I'm answering for myself, but if you do feel interested to answer, please feel free. To begin my interview with, before I get to the question, is our first poet, Nishka Sharma, ready? All right.
I can see her on the screen.
The question will be, Mark Twain was known for his wit and humor. How did he develop his distinctive writing style where he infused satire, wit, humor, and a lot of other elements? Well, maybe it all started with his love for observing human nature and finding humor in everyday situations. He aimed to capture the absurdities in life and expose society's follies through satire and irony. Twain used lots of slang and local terminology of his day to help create an impression of the setting and to support the sense of an easygoing narrative. The vernacular in Mark Twain's writing style also serves to develop his fictional characters in many of the novels he's written. Nishka, you may please recite the poem.
Hello, I will be reciting My Dog Burns by Mark Twain. No more shall her beauteous form be seen in the raging storm. No more shall her wondrous tail dodge the quickly dropping hail. She lived a quiet, harmless life in Hartford far from madding strife, nor waged no war on peaceful rat, nor battled with wild, fierce tomcat. No, no, my beloved, 'cause dear cause dead, what though thy coat was a brick dust red? Like a good author, thou wast a trusty friend, and thy tale, like his, read to the very end. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautifully
Very good,
recited.
very good recital.
Very nice.
Moving on to the next question, to our imaginary Mark Twain. To famous novel, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, tackle themes of race and morality. How did he approach these sensitive subjects considering the socio-political conditions he was put in back in his day? I think that he wanted to challenge the prevailing notions of his time by highlighting the hypocrisy and injustice in society. Huckleberry Finn's journey down the Mississippi River, the infamous Mississippi River, served as a vehicle to explore racial prejudices and innate goodness of individuals. Twain masterfully uses humor to criticize societal issues, leaving a lasting legacy that continues to influence readers to this day. Shrivani and Naivedya will be our next poets.
Hello.
Lovely.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening. Today, now, as we know, Mark Twain, one thing about him is that he spent a good amount of time in India. So we can see some familiarity with our own ancient tales and fables with whatever it is that he would write. So today here, Naivedya is going to share with us one such story of his full of humor.
A friend asked me to visit old Simon Wheeler to inquire about a man named Leonidas W. Smiley. I found Wheeler asleep in a mining camp. After waking him, I mentioned my friend's request. Wheeler began to tell me a long story about a man named Jim Smiley. Jim Smiley was a peculiar man who always found ways to make money, whether it was through dog fights, cat fights, or chicken fights. He was incredibly lucky and often came out as the winner. Once, Smiley even bet against a sick woman's recovery, proving his knack for gambling. Smiley had a small dog that appeared unimpressive until money was involved. The dog would engage in fights and would always come out on top, except for one time when it faced a dog without back legs. Realizing the disadvantage, Smiley's dog stopped fighting and eventually died. Despite that loss, Smiley continued his ventures with rats, chickens, and cats. Betting on their performances, he even trained a frog named Daniel Webster to jump and catch flies. One day, a stranger questioned the frog's worth, and Smiley confidently claimed that it could outjump any frog in the county. The stranger accepted Smiley's challenge, but Smiley left to find a frog for the stranger. The man tampered with Daniel Webster, filling its mouth with birdshot. When the frogs were released, Daniel couldn't move, and the stranger walked away with the money. Smiley, perplexed, discovered the bullets in Daniel's mouth, but failed to catch the man. Now Simon Wheeler heard his name called and told me to wait, but I did not think that more stories about Jim Smiley would give me any more information about Leonidas W. Smiley. So I decided to leave. As I was about to leave, Wheeler tried to engage me with stories about Smiley's yellow cow with one eye and no tail, lacking both time and interest. I left without hearing more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, super.
Very good,
super.
very good.
Wow, wow.
Very well read, Navadyas, with such a clarity. I'm really impressed.
We enjoyed a lot.
Thank you.
We have our own little Mark Twain here. Beautiful. Thank you. Moving on to our next question. Twain's travel writings gained him so much popularity. I hope you all have heard of Twain's travel writing somewhere before. People wondered what motivated Twain to explore different parts of the world. Traveling, it obviously shows in his writings that traveling allowed him to broaden his perspective and gain first-hand experiences that he could use to infuse into his stories. Discovering new cultures and interacting with people from diverse backgrounds fascinated him and fueled his creativity. And I directly quote Mark Twain here, quote unquote, "Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. And many of our people need it solely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all of one's lifetime." Wonderful, isn't it? Ajashrat Tripathi will be our next poet.
Good evening to everybody.
Good
And today
evening.
I will read a story by Mark Twain. I'll just read a part of a story. Here, be it Michigan or Missouri, the luckless and hungry are likely to stub a toe, look down, and discover at their feet a soup bowl full of gold ingots. But there, the luckless and hungry are likely to stub a toe, look down, and only discover the dried up root of a withered old apple tree, which is exactly what Johnny, our hero, has discovered. Johnny had known no other family, and to say he knew his grandfather would be an optimist at best. And since a great many of the world's tragedies, big and small, were first stung up in the minds of a cold optimist, Johnny's grandfather was a bad man. Johnny's only true companion was a chicken with a particular name. Her name was Pestilence and Famine. Johnny had never heard the 2 words of kindness from his grandfather, and so it was a great surprise to Johnny when his grandfather stepped out of the broken down shack into the yard to ask, "Are you all right? Can you walk?" Johnny's heart filled with happiness. "Yes," he said, "I'll be all right, thank you." "Good," replied his grandfather. "Then walk to the market and sell that chicken for something worth eating." They had just reached their destination when suddenly, without a warning, Johnny and his chicken were swept up in a parade. There were trumpets and drums and far too many cymbals. There were flags and flaming batoons, ridiculous uniforms, and multiple of silly hats. By the king, a proclamation. Today's parade is to celebrate the glorious victory of His Majesty's army of the most recent and terrible war to his nation. Alms for the poor, she repeated. Hand shaking, she held out her wooden cup. I'm sorry, said Johnny. I have nothing to give you. I only have this chicken. She makes a good company. Then the poor woman said thank you and gave Johnny some seeds. When Johnny arrived home, he was doing some gardening and then realized Johnny's grandfather laid down and died. Johnny ate the seeds that the poor woman told her. And then Johnny started realizing that animals could talk to him and he could talk to animals. There was a skunk in the garden, and then Johnny got really suspicious about an animal talking. Then she explained, a lion can speak to a squirrel, can speak to an owl, can speak to a mouse. A camel can speak to a pig, can speak to an elk, can speak to an elephant. A whale can speak to a gull. A giraffe can speak to a hermit crab. It's only humans that no one can understand. It is why they're so arrogant and backward and lonely and sad. It will be any moment now, the skunk said. And all the animals from the animal kingdom arrived, started talking to him. The animals started making a home. The animals made a home for Johnny where all of them can live, while the tiger went hunting for food. Reward. Then Johnny saw on the tree a weird piece of paper. Reward. Prince Olo'umarujin is missing. Giants suspected. His Majesty the King begs to his dutiful servants to step forward with information, leading the safe return to the nation's own son. Money, a princess. Well, would you like to earn that money? Johnny thought for a moment. He had never had money before. It sounded very nice to have. Yes, he answered. In a day or two, they found Johnny with these mysterious people. They weren't no giants, they were just people. The people replied to Johnny and said, the prince was really mean to us and attacked us in the road. You can take him. Then they found the missing prince and returned him to the king. The end.
Very well read. Very well read. Thank you.
Oh, very nice.
Well done,
Yes,
well
I-
done.
First time you came, PLG program. Thanks for coming. Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ajaisha. Thank you. Moving on with our interview. I don't know if this is the right way to conduct an interview, but again, what is right and wrong is very subjective, isn't it?
It's a very interesting, Likhita. You always surprise with your innovative style of anchoring. I
Thank you.
always remember and often, rewatch your Shakespeare one. And this will be another one which I will see again and again. I'm sure not only me, many of people present here will see this again and again.
Thank you, sir. It really, really means a lot. In fact, I was just feeling nervous. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I had another question actually for our imaginary Mark Twain. We're aware that back then, when Mark Twain just gained popularity as a writer, America started going through expansionist policies, which I don't think we really need to focus on right now. But Mark Twain always had an opinion on it because he was an anti-imperialist. As an outspoken critic of imperialism, what were Twain's thoughts on America's expansionist policies during the time? And did he really show them through his work? Mark Twain firmly believed that imperialism and the idea of manifest destiny were detrimental to both the nations being colonized and the colonizers themselves. And coming to the part where he showed all of his opinions in his work, He often used his writings to expose the injustices and moral shortcomings of such ventures. One such example is our well-known Huckleberry Finn again, a masterful satire not of slavery, which had been abolished a decade before Twain began writing the novel, but of the racism that suffused American society as Twain wrote the book in the late 1970s. Nida Siddiqui ji, you may take over the stage.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to recite a small poem, These I Can Promise, which is based on the fantasy versus reality. I cannot promise you a life of sunshine. I cannot promise riches, wealth, or gold. I cannot promise you an easy pathway that leads away from change or growing old. But I can promise all my heart's devotion, a smile to chase away your tears of sorrow, a love that's ever true and ever growing, a hand to hold in yours through each tomorrow. Thank you.
Beautiful. That line, a smile to chase away tears of sorrow, it holds so much of depth. Just one line, and imagine the depth it holds. Beautiful. Thank you so much. The next question. Mark Twain's pen name, the word Mark Twain, is associated with riverboat jargon, if you all have heard of it. What exactly is its significance? The word Mark Twain was a riverboat term, meaning that the water was at a safe depth for navigation. It symbolizes a safe passage, and he chose this odd name for his pen name to signify his intention to navigate through life's challenges with humor and a keen eye for social commentary. I will quote Mark Twain directly here, quote unquote. When I was a boy, there was but one permanent ambition among my comrades in our village on the west bank of the Mississippi River. That was to be a steamboat man. The steamboat is the most pervasive and identifiable icon of the Mississippi, a romanticized symbol inseparably tied to the pre-war river and Twain's youth. Nafisa, you're our next poet.
Hello everyone. I thank dear host for introducing me so well. And thank you dear Simmi auntie and Tufail uncle and PLG member for this opportunity. I hope you're all doing good on this wonderful evening. Without taking much time, now the poem I'm speaking today is about us. Looking back at our past, those times when we should have done what we wanted to. Mark Twain also speaks of missed opportunities, and how we should not let the past repeat and live for the future. Here is my poem. 20 years from now. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bowlines, sail from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails. Catch the trade winds in your sails. Explore, dream, discover. Thank you.
Very nice, very nice. Well recited, and your words were very clear. Your dialogues were very clear, and I'm really impressed with your style of presentation. Well done, Nafisa. Keep it up.
Thank you.
She was just adorable, wasn't she? Thank you, Nafisa.
Thank you.
I hope Batulji is ready because she will be our next poet. My question is that Mark Twain was an ardent supporter of women's suffrage. What are his thoughts on the importance of gender equality? We all know that through his work, that he firmly believed that women should have the same rights and opportunities as men. He thought that their intelligence and capabilities are no less, and denying them suffrage or equality is an injustice that hampers progress and stifles human potential. Twain was not only a supporter of suffrage, but he also was an activist. On January 20, 1901, at the annual meeting of the Hebrew Technical School for Girls, Mark Twain gave a speech titled Votes for Women that empowered the young women in the audience and encouraged change in the world. Batulji, you may please recite your poem.
I'm going to be reciting a poem from Personal Recollections of Joan of Arc, written by Mark Twain. It's about a fairy tree which Joan of Arc recollects when she is scaffolded to the stake. So here I go. The fairy tree of Domremy. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Yeah. So, Le Arbre Fi, Le Beau Le Monde. Now, what has kept your leaves so green, Arbre Fi, Le Beau Le Monde? The children's tears, they brought each grief, and you did comfort them and cheer their bruised hearts, and steal a tear that healed, rose a leaf. And what has built you up so strong, Arbre Fi, Le Beau Le Monde? The children's love, they've loved you long, 1,000 years in sooth. They've nourished you with and song, and warmed your heart and kept it young, 1,000 years of youth. Bide always green in our young hearts, Arbre, Fi, de Beau Le Monde, and we shall always youthful be, not heeding time his flight. And when in exile wandering, we shall fainting yearn for a glimpse of thee, O rise upon our sights. This is dedicated to a tree which was believed to be visited by fairies in her hometown, Domremy. So this is written by Twain and dedicated to Joan of Arc and all the other children who believe in nature and faith. Can I recite another small poem?
I think you are within 5 minutes, so you could please.
Okay, I had said that I would be reciting Love Came at Dawn. It is believed that this is not written by Mark Twain, though it is included in his works. It is written by another Canadian poet. So this was written in 1896 when his daughter Susie Clemens died at the age of 24. So it has grief and it has joy. Joy because he had a daughter, and grief because she passed away. So here I go. Love came at dawn. Love came at dawn when all the world was fair, when crimson glories, bloom and sun were rife. Love came at dawn when hope's wings fanned the air and murmured, I am life. Love came at even when the day was done, and when heart and brain were tired and slumber pressed. Love came at eve, shut out the sinking sun, and whispered, I am rest. That's it. Thank you very much.
Beautiful, ma'am. You were wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Moving on with the interview, which is not an interview exactly, but here we are. Mark Twain's novel, The Prince and the Pauper, explored themes of social class and identity. What message was he trying to convey exactly through the novel? Twain satirizes social conventions, usually aiming to show that a person's worth should not be judged solely based on their social standing or wealth. True nobility lies in character, compassion, and the ability to empathize with others, regardless of the circumstances. At the beginning of the book, the epigraph is on the theme of mercy, and the book delivers on that theme. So readers may infer that part of Twain's motivation was to teach children, mainly, about the importance of mercy. Perhaps the most important lesson from one of the characters from the book, the prince, is that you should always seek wisdom and advice of knowledgeable people, and that when given such advice directly, you should listen to it in a way that encourages people to share their advice with you again in the future. Teresa ji will be our next poet. I hope Teresa ji is with us.
Hey dear,
Good evening, ma'am.
good evening, Likita. First, I want to say thank you to you. You are such an amazing kid. I learned such a lot about Mark Twain listening to you today, and you always fascinate me. You always fascinate me. You take the words out of my mouth. So thank you, sweetie, and really a joy to see you today. Now, the poem what I have reading on is, I think it is about love which cannot be shown. So the rumor is that Mark Twain had two friends. One was a boy, one was a girl, and Mark Twain. Mark Twain loved this girl, but he never told her that. And the girl fell in love with his friend. So, what happens was throughout their relationship, he could never tell the girl he loved her. So, my poem is Love Concealed. O thou will never know how fond a love this heart could have felt for thee, or ever dream how love and friendship strove through long, long hours for mastery, how passion often urged, but pride restrained, or how thy coldness grieved, but kindness pained. How ours have soothed the feelings, then that were the torture of my lonely life, but ever yet will often fall a tear o'er wildest hopes and thoughts then rife. Wherever recalled by passing word or tone, fond memory mirrors all those visions flown. For much I fear he has won thy heart, and thou art but a friend to me. I feel that in thy love I have no part. I know how much he worships thee. Yet still often will there rise a gleam of hope, wherewith but only time and pride can cope. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It was wonderful. And Twain was stuck in such a messy triangle. And maybe as readers from
And the
2023,
sad thing is, he knew her, he loved her, but he came to know that she loves his friend. So he always remained a friend to this girl, but he could never tell her he loved her. You see?
and maybe
This is
as
same like me and Shah Rukh Khan.
we relate, ma'am, really. And maybe as readers
That's a
from
good one.
2023 wouldn't really complain about his unrequited love, as wrong as it may seem, because it must have given birth to some wonderful poems.
Yes.
It always
Yes.
is the theme.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
he has wonderful poems. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
so
Simi
very
and
much.
Tufailji also.
I hope Zoeb sir is with
Thank
us.
you so much, Teresa ji, for coming. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Likita, I'm here.
Thank you, sir. My question for Twain being, Twain was known for his sharp critiques of religion and organized faith. How did his views on religion evolve over time. We all know that Mark Twain questioned dogmas and hypocrisy often associated with organized religion of his time. While he was skeptical of some aspects, he respected individual faith and believed in the importance of moral values and kindness towards others, regardless of religious beliefs. But since we're all gathered here as Mark Twain fans, we must have, at some point, come across the fact that Mark Twain used his book, Huckleberry Finn, to put forward his views on religion. I don't know if you've noticed, but in Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Mark Twain portrays contemporary religion as shallow and hypocritical. He criticizes the hypocrisy of conventional religion by comparing it with the true religion of Huckleberry. Zoeb sir, please.
Yes, I'm here. Good evening. Adab, namaste. Tufel Simiji, good evening. Thank you for calling me here. I chose this crow because it was part of our English literature in school. But to lighten up this mood a little, I will come to the subject of bird crow. A group of crows is called murder. A group of crows is called murder. Probably because of the folklore of medieval England, crow hunts the lesser birds, small birds. And I imagine a Brit must be saying, oh, murder. So that is how it is murder. Crows are intelligent. Shiana Kawa. Like humans, they are united. When a crow finds food, it cows and calls his friends. And when a crow dies, it is a cacophony of cows to bury him. And like humans, a crow will never eat alone. When he finds food, he calls all his friends to sit down. And the most important, you will never find a male crow and a female crow like other birds. So Mark Twain came to Bombay and he stayed in Esplanade Hotel, which is where now the Taj Mahal Hotel stands. And he sat in the balcony. He sat in the balcony of the hotel looking at the sea, and he saw a group of crows hovering over him. And that is how he wrote it. I suppose he has no enemies among men, he says. I suppose the crows does not have any enemies among men. The whites and Mohammedans never seem to molest him. And the Hindus, because of their religion, never take the life of creatures, but spare even the snakes and tigers and fleas and rats. If I sat on one end of the balcony, the crows would gather on the trailing on the other end and talk about me. The crows would talk about him. They edged closer, little by little, till I could almost reach them. And they would sit there. In the most unabashed way and talk about my clothes, my hair, my complexion, and probable character. Vocation, he talked about probable character and vocation and politics. And how I came to be in India. The crows started talking to themselves, how I came to be in India and what I had been doing here and how many days I had I had to go for it. And how I happened to go unchained, unhanged. How I happened to be unhanged so long. And when would I probably come off and might there be more of my sorts? The crows are saying, more of my sorts where I came from, that is England. And when would they hang them? And so on until I could no longer endure the embarrassments of it. Then I would shoo them away. And they would circle around in the air and the air a little while laughing and deriding and mocking, and presently settle on the rail and do it all over again. They're very sociable when there are anything to eat. The crows are very sociable when there is something to eat. Oppressively so. When a little encouragement, they would come in and light on the table and help me to eat my breakfast. And once when I was in the other room, they would found themselves alone. They carried off everything they could lift, and they were particularly to choose things which they could make no use of after they had got them. In India, their number is beyond estimate, and their noise is unproportional. I suppose they've cost the country more than the government does. Yet, that is not a lighter moment. Still, they pay. Their company pays. It would sadden the land to take their cheerful voice out of it. And parting shot is, I would have liked to meet Mark Twain, but Twain shall never meet. Thank you, Likita.
Sir, very
Beautiful,
good,
sir.
very good.
Beautiful, sir. Beautiful.
There's one thing I would like to share with you.
Yes.
That your crows have just reminded me that the best brand of liquor he always consumed and he always carried a casket of it was called Old Crows. So probably the crows reminded him of the drink also.
Hello, nobody noticed, but I am wearing his feathers today.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You have an essence of your own. That is beautiful, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, friends.
Shamela will be our next poet. But before that, another question for our imaginary Twain here. Many of Twain's works reflect his love for the Mississippi River. What significance did it hold for him as a person? And we know that the Mississippi River was not just a physical presence. It symbolized the essence of America and the spirit of exploration. It was a source of inspiration, a witness to history, and a reflection of the diverse and ever-changing nature of the country Mark Twain has always loved. Mark Twain grew up on the Mississippi River in Hannibal, Missouri, and the Mississippi is virtually a character in his classic novels, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. What's more, Twain had experienced changes on the Mississippi River throughout his life. In the book Life on the Mississippi River, Twain undergoes a change in perspective on the outlook of the river. He went from seeing it as a beauty to just a river because of his time on the river to a potential inspiration to most of his works. Shamela, please.
Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. By Albert Einstein. A very warm hello to everyone present here, and especially Likhita, Simi Auntie, and Tufel sir for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this event. And on this note, I'd like to take the opportunity to recite one of the most celebrated poems of Mark Twain, Genius. Genius, like gold and precious stones, is chiefly prized because of its rarity. Geniuses are people who dash off weird, wild, incomprehensible poems with astonishing facility and get booming drunk and sleep in the gutter. Genius elevates its possessor to ineffable spheres far above the vulgar world and fills his soul with regal contempt for the gross and sordid things of earth. It is probably on account of this that people who have genius do not pay their board as a general thing. Geniuses are very singular. If you see a young man who has frowsy hair and distraught look and affects eccentricity in dress, you may set him down for a genius. If he sings, about the degeneracy of a world which quotes vulgar opulence and neglects brain, he is undoubtedly a genius. If he is too proud to accept assistance and spurns it with a lordly air, at the very same time that he knows he can't make a living to save his life, he is most certainly a genius. If he hangs on and sticks to poetry, notwithstanding sawing wood comes handler to him, he is a true genius. If he throws away every opportunity in life and crushes the affection and the patience of his friends, and then protests in sticky rhymes of his hard lot, and finally persists, in spite of the sound advice of persons who have got sense, but not any genius, persists in going up some infamous back alley, dying in rags and dirt, he is beyond all question a genius. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Very good, very good.
Thank you, Sammelan. That was beautiful. Thank you. Have we reached the middle of the program? I think we have. And by now, I think we all realize that Mark Twain was a wonderful poet. True, very true. But shouldn't we admit that PLG has its own colors too? We have Tufail sir as the lead artist, and every single poet is a caricature of the finest art. Like Shumela recited, if he hangs on to poetry, he's a genius. So let's invite Vibha ji to present our magazine. Let's appreciate our poetry for a minute.
Thank you, Likita. And you are doing really a wonderful job. Or
Thank you. Thank you so much.
this is our last week's magazine. Just a minute, let me find where is the magazine. This is screen share. I'm sorry, I could not find the magazine right now. 1 minute. 1 minute, half a minute just.
Is it by color palette?
Yeah, that color palette one. Then come to Zoom. Okay. Now Zoom. Yes. Yeah, this one. Sorry. So this is our last week's magazine, and the topic was open. So in every open topic, we can see the versatility of our feelings and emotions, and so many topics are included in this. And this beautiful color palette design was made by Adarniya Zoeb Dalal Sarji. He always makes very good design and very innovative ones. So सबकी तस्वीरें इसमें जोड़ी गई हैं, सबकी तस्वीरें हैं और उनको बहुत खूबसूरती से इन्होंने एक साथ किया है. So बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद इस खूबसूरत इनोवेटिव कवर पेज के लिए.
Thank you.
और इसके बाद है बहुत ही खूबसूरत रिपोर्ट जो तैयार किया गया है अनुपम जी के द्वारा. अनुपम जी बहुत ही सुंदर और विस्तृत एलैबोरेटेड रिपोर्ट हमेशा तैयार करती हैं कि आप रिपोर्ट अगर पढ़ें तो ऐसा लगता है कि वो 2 घंटे की पोइट्री सेशन जो है वो आपके आंखों के सामने से होके गुजर रहा है. और संक्षेप में वो सारी कविताओं का सार और भाव लिखती जाती हैं। बहुत खूबसूरत रिपोर्ट लिखती हैं अनुपम जी, जो कि हमारी वैश्विक उपाध्यक्ष भी हैं और साथ में मीडिया रिपोर्ट भी वही लिखती हैं। उसके बाद है हमारी आदरणीय एंकर ऑफ द डे भावना भारद्वाज जी। इन्होंने बहुत ही खूबसूरत निजामत की थी, बहुत ही सुंदर खूबसूरत तरीके से सबका परिचय दिया था और कविताओं को कॉम्प्लीमेंट भी किया था। और इसके बाद है हमारी कविताएं और हमारे कवियों के नाम। हिंदी, इंग्लिश, उर्दू में गजलें और कविताएं पढ़ी गई, कुछ अलग अलग भाव लिए, जिसमें प्रेम भी था, तिजारत भी थी, धोखा भी था, वैराग्य भी था और कुछ राजनीति, कुछ भ्रष्टाचार, कुछ रिश्वतखोरी, हर तरह के टॉपिक्स। और बहुत दिनों के बाद अली नूरुल यासीन जी हमसे जुड़े थे पिछले सप्ताह, उनकी 2 कविताएं हैं इसमें, बहुत ही खूबसूरत कविताएं हैं। और ये जो पत्रिका है ये समर्पित है हमारे कविता और साहित्य के प्रेमियों को, जो हर हफ्ते जुड़ते हैं, अपना कीमती समय देते हैं और साहित्य को जीवित रखने के लिए, जीवंत करने के लिए, उसमें नए प्राण फूंकने के लिए नए आइडियाज, नए शब्द लेकर आते हैं, कुछ नया रचते हैं जो कि हम आने वाली पीढ़ी को देकर जाएंगे और इसको इस पत्रिका के रूप में हम संरक्षित रखते हैं। तो ये पत्रिका समर्पित है हमारे पाठकों को, श्रोताओं को और साहित्य प्रेमियों को। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद लिखिता। Now the podium is yours.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I think my network seems to be unstable, so if at all there's any disturbance, please feel free to interrupt me. Is Ganga Shiva sir here with us? I don't think he is. Manoj sir, you're the next poet. My question: Mark Twain was known for his strong social commentary. Many people wonder, how exactly did he balance satire with delivering important messages? Mark Twain often believed that satire, when done well, can be a powerful tool to expose societal issues. By employing humor and irony aimed to engage readers, make them think for a minute, and encourage them to question the prevailing norms and institutions of the time. The techniques used by Twain effectively were used to communicate his position in satirizing the conventional advice given to young people. The use of irony exposes the flaws and contradictions in the advice, highlighting the gap between what parents think and the young person's own judgment. Manoj sir, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Likita. Actually, you are taking us to the nostalgic days. Only the time has flown by 40 years. Other than that, I'm feeling that I'm still in the English class and enjoying this marvelous pieces of literature.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
So I'm not reciting a poem. Actually, it's a very short story, and I selected it for a particular reason. When I was going through it, I felt it a bit close to our Indian literature, like our Panchatantra stories. These 5 boons of life. It is something related to that. Now, actually, I was just listening to all those things. Many facets of Mark Twain was enlightened by many of us. So actually, to tell the truth, the converse of time during which time Mark Twain was writing his articles, it is somehow related to majority of the world of the day. Why I am saying so? Because during the late 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, whatever the America was going through the transformation, now majority of the world is going through that transformation. So there are many romanticism, satirism, and all those things you are saying. But there is another facet of Mark Twain, that is realism. So when this is more about realism, and it is again related to our Indian philosophy, which starts with pessimism, but at the end it actually tells a facet of life which is very close to our heart. So 5 boons of life, I will be just going through it a bit faster. So it is again about a fairy tale. So a fairy comes with a basket, and one fine morning, here are the gifts. Take one and leave others. Be wary, choose wisely, and choose wisely. For one of them is valuable, rest of them are not. So the gifts were 5: fame, love, riches, pleasure, and death. The youth said eagerly, there is no need to consider, and he chooses pleasure, which is commonly we can choose. He went to the world and sought out the pleasures that youth delights in, but each in turn was short-lived and disappointing, vain and empty, and each departing mocked him. In the end, he said, these years I have wasted. If I could be chosen once again, I would choose wisely. That is again a lifetime experience, isn't it? We all go through that phase. Then the chapter 2. The fairy appeared again. 4 of the gifts still remain with me. Choose one once more. Remember, time is flying. The only one of them is precious. The men considered long and then choose love. That is again our way our life moves on. After pleasure, normally in the second phase of our life, we choose love. The men considered long and then choose love. After many years of the man sat by a coffin in an empty home, he communed with himself and saying, one by one, they have all gone away, left me. Now she lies here, the dearest and the last. Desolation after desolation has swept over me. For each hour of happiness, the teacher has paid her. Love has sold me. I have said 1,000 hours of peace. Out of my heart of hearts, I curse you. Choose again. The fairy again started speaking. The years have taught you wisdom. Surely it must be so. 3 gifts still remain with me. Only one has to be chosen, and that isn't got any worth. Remember it. Choose wisely. The man reflected long and then chose fame. So the fairy sighing went her way. Years went by, then she came again, stood behind the man where he sat solitarily in the fading day, thinking she knew his thought. My name filled the world. Its rages were on every tongue. It seemed well with me, and a little while, how little while it was, it then came envy, then came detraction, then calumny, then hate, then persecution, then derision, which is the beginning of the end. At last, all came pity, which is the funeral of fame. Oh, the bitterness, the misery of renown, target for mud in its prime, for contempt and compassion in its decay. Now, again the fairy came. So three of the gifts are gone. Now choose yet again. It was the fairy's voice. 2 gifts remain. And don't despair. So in the beginning there was, but now that precious, and it's still one is still left, wealth, which is power. How blind it was, said the man. Now at last, life will be worth the living. I'll spend, squander, and dazzle. These mockers and desperates will crawl to the dirt before me, and I will feed my hungry heart with their envy. I will have all the luxuries, all the joys, all enchantments of the spirit, all contemplants of the body that can hold dear. I will buy, difference, respect, esteem, worship, every pinch back, grace of the life, the market of trivial world can furnish food. So I have lost much time, chosen badly, here to the fore, let that pass. I was ignorant then, and now I think I'm wise, but to take the best one, it's what I think so. 3 short years went by, and a day came when the man was shivering in a mean garret, and he was gaunt, wan and hollow-eyed, clothed in rags, and he was groaning at a dry crust and mumbling, curse all the world's gifts for mockeries and gilded lies. He miscalled everyone. They are not gifts, but merely lendings, pleasure, love, fame, and riches. They are but temporarily disguises for the lasting realities. Lasting realities, pain, grief, shame, and poverty. The fairy said true. In all her store, there was but one gift, which was very precious, only one that was not valueless. How poor and cheap and mean I know all others now to be compared with the inestimable Mal. That dear and sweet kindly one that steeps in the dreamless and enduring sleep that pains and persecute the body. The same sin griefs that eat the mind and heart. Bring it. I am weary. I could rest. Now finally fairy came, bringing again the 4 of the gifts, but death was wanting, but it was not there. So I gave it to a mother's pet, a little child. It was ignorant, but he trusted me, asking me to choose for it. I did not ask me to choose. And you did not ask me to choose. That's why you choose with your own wisdom till now. And whatever you choose, and at the end of the life, whatever you are longing for, it is no more there in your gift list. So, oh measurable me, what is left for me? So what not you have been deserved the wanton insult of old age. And here actually, when we are going through that, it looks like it ends in pessimism, but it is a reality of life. When you are talking about the Panchamahabhut, when it ends to that, so it is a reality. Means he was actually putting a lot of stress on realism, because during that time America was passing through a great depression, and during that time a lot of people's real thinking, that thought process was cut very nicely in this beautiful short story. So it is again, I could relate to that as our own Panchatantra stories. So in the end, we are getting one beautiful, what I will say, lessons of life, which you can think of very dearly. It is very philosophical, so it is very close to my heart. Thank you, Likita, and thank you all, and particularly Tofel and Saraj for making me part of it. Actually, I'm really enjoying my life once more. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming and sharing the beautiful story.
Thank you, sir. And I think poetry and literature has that effect on you. It makes you feel like you're born again and you're living life to the fullest. Just once again, every time you read something, it has that effect on you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us. My next question is that we all have heard that Twain often had these little part-time jobs that he worked for, like as a printer, a riverboat pilot, and a miner. How did working in these fields influence his career as a writer? His various occupations exposed him to different walks of life and provided him with a deep well of experiences to draw from. They helped shape his understanding of the human condition, and he incorporated those perspectives into his stories and characters. And unfortunately, when Twain was just 11 years old, his father died, pushing the family to the brink of economic collapse. Twain was forced to leave school and he worked a series of jobs. After stints working for his brother's newspaper and other publishers in the Midwest and East, Twain fulfilled another childhood love by becoming a Mississippi riverboat pilot, like I've mentioned before. This brief, though happy, phase of his early 20s was also where he acquired the pen name that millions would soon know him by, Mark Twain. Pramila ji, you may please recite your poem.
Good evening, everybody. Tufelji and Simiji. Can you hear me?
Most welcome.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible. Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. It's such a pleasure again, as I always say, to be here. Well, now, the question what Likita was asking is that I have an answer. Only something which is inked, only something which is penned remains forever, and our body is just going to go away to decay. So about Mark Twain, the original name of Mark Twain is Samuel L. Clemens, and Edgar Albert Guest has written a lovely poem about Mark Twain, saying that he is not dead. He cannot consider Mark Twain to be dead because his work remains forever. But what he says is he's trying to console himself by saying that it is Clemens, as we're born, we may die, but our work remains here forever. That could be one of the reasons why our elders always tell us to ink the best thing to the universe. So we at PLG family are doing a wonderful job of taking our pens to ink in our name, what can remain forever? So here's my little poem about Mark Twain, written by Edgar Albert Guest. Mark Twain is dead? No, no, that cannot be. Say rather, Clemens knows life's misery. Say rather, Clemens has been called above, but Twain still lives for all the world to love. Mark Twain is dead. It's false. I'll not believe, for Clemens only will I pause to grieve. But Twain still lives. It's Clemens passes by. Mark Twain was never born to die. The hand that held the pen is nerveless now. The chill of death rests coolly on his brow. The voice that made us laugh will speak no more, but Twain still lives to cheer us as before. This is the strength of pen. It's Clemens who has torn the veils aside, who knows what is beyond the great divide. It's Clemens who's gone, who leaves behind Mark Twain to cheer and comfort humankind. That's the end of the poem. It's a very short, small, beautiful poem. I hope you enjoyed it. And what I would like to tell you is, Likita, you're doing a good job, dear. It's actually a long pace of Mark Twain that we are hearing from you. And it's a good knowledge to all the people who are listening to you. Lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you, Sufilji. I hope all of you are doing well there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And nice to see you back on PLG.
I know. I know.
Stage. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a
you have been
pleasure.
the erstwhile member,
Exactly. And I
right
will
from
remain
the
that.
beginning. Yeah.
And I will remain that. Once
I
in a
know
way,
that.
whenever possible, I will shoot up because this
Thank
is
you.
PLG family, close to my heart.
Like you
Thank
said,
you.
ma'am,
Thank
the
you so
hand
much.
that holds the pen and words that are written, they're never forgotten. They're always in the air like a thought. It will be there with us. You will always, your poems are always with us, ma'am. Thank you.
Wow,
Thank you
that's
so much.
great. You made my day and my life. Thanks, darling.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye, all of you.
Thank you.
My question for Mark Twain is that he was known for his friendship with other notable authors, such as Rudyard Kipling, Harriet Stowe. How did these relationships with famous writers impact his writing? And I feel like interacting with fellow writers provided a supportive network and intellectual stimulation. His conversations with them, exchanges of ideas, challenged him to grow as a writer and allowed him to explore different perspectives and writing styles. One of Mark Twain's good friends and neighbors was Harriet Stowe, who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin, one of a very good work. In fact, Harriet's brother, Thomas Beecher, performed the ceremony at Mark Twain's wedding. That was how close his circle was with these famous writers. Twain was also good friends with the inventor and visionary Nikola Tesla. And many people even wondered, what was his relationship with Oscar Wilde? And I will keep that question for maybe another time. But now we have Narendra sir for here to recite a poem.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible. Good evening,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you very much. Since I'm sitting here with the program, and before starting my Mark Twain poem, I can't control myself to speak about Likita, because I have no daughter and she is just seeming my very lovely daughter, and she is anchoring the program in such a nice way that is not appreciable for me, but everyone who is attached to this program. Because Likita, blessing, my blessings.
Very true, very,
I'm
very true.
I'm equal to your grandpa. And
Sir, thank you so much.
Actually, this program is very much attractive and going on very nicely because the starting you have taken with the kids. Very nice. And secondly, I have found some similarity among all the poets, maybe from any region, any language, or any part of the world. They are not only poet, they are actual social, all the poets are social reformers, best photographers and painters. They paint the society by the words. So now I start my poem, Mark Twain. Although I selected another poem, Genius, which was already taken by someone, so I'm reading another poem, The Marriage Wall. As I sat in America, this pleasant weather, and started to write Mark Twain, this poem, all around very lovely environment. It was rain, rain, and rain. And I started writing about Mark Twain, Twain, and Twain. So, Marriage Wall by Mark Twain. A marriage makes of two fractional lives a whole. A marriage makes of two fractional lives a whole. It gives two purposeless lives a work. He says, purposeless. It gives two purposeless lives a work and doubles the strength of each to perform it. It gives two questioning. It gives two questioning nature a reason for living and something to live for. It will give new gladness to the sunshine. It will give new gladness to the sunshine, a new fragrance to the flowers, a new beauty to the earth, and a new mystery to the life. What a fine way he has taken about the marriage. Thank you very much. Love you all.
Wow, very beautiful.
Thank you, sir.
Very beautifully recited.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very beautiful, sir. It was very beautiful. Thank you, sir. Our next poet is Dr. Ritu Sharma. But before ma'am takes over the stage, I often wondered, we know that Mark Twain was brought up in Missouri, and Hannibal, the place Hannibal, and how did him being brought up in that kind of a place influence his writing style and perspectives? And growing up in Missouri, he was exposed to a blend of Southern and Western influences. This unique cultural backdrop shaped his humor, storytelling, and gave him a keen sense of the societal issues prevalent in those areas. Like we know, Mark Twain, he moved to Hannibal as a child. The Clemens family lived there from 1844 to 1853. Eventually, Twain's father became a justice of the peace in that area, and Twain learned the trade of typesetting and published his first writing while working for the town paper. So it had a very important, it had a very important place in his heart. So, ma'am, please take over the stage. Ritu, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Nikita. You conduct this program very well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're doing well. Now, my greeting to all, especially Simiji and Tufel Bhai and everyone. My poem is on Mark Twain's lack of money. This problem
Most welcome.
also. The name of my poem is These Annual Bills. I have my poem. I translated this poem also in Hindi. If you want to listen, it can be. My poem is something like this. Sorry for my inconvenient English, because after 20 years I speak English. I used
You're
to speak Dutch.
You're doing wonderful.
Thank you. This is my poem like this. These annual bills, how many a song their discord thrills, of truck consumed in joy forgot, since I was skinned by last year's lot. Those joyous beans are passed away. Those onion blades, oh, where are they? Once loved, lost, mourned, now vaccine ills, you share your shades drop back in annual bills. And so it will be when I am aground, these yearly duns will still go around, while other birds with frenetic quills shall and damn these annual bills. Thank you so much. If you want to translation in Hindi, if you have time, then I can read in Hindi also.
I think you are well within your 5 minutes time, so you could please.
Thank you. ये वार्षिक बिल किसी संगीत वाद्य से निकलने वाली तरंगों की तरह, जिनका आनंद लीजिए और फिर भूल जाइए, क्योंकि मैं पिछले वर्ष अपनी इन बिल के खातिर चमड़ी उधरवा चुका हूँ। खिलती खुशी की फलियों की तरह है और झुलस जाते हैं प्याज की परतों की तरह। कहाँ है वे? एक बार प्यार किया, खो दिया, फिर शौक मनाया, अब पीड़ादायक बीमारी रंग बदलकर वार्षिक बिल के रूप में वापस आ रही हैं। और ऐसा जब होता है तब मैं घिर जाता हूँ उदासी के अंधेरों में। ये वार्षिक बिल अभी भी मेरी मरनी पर मौत का गीत गाते हुए मुझे सताते रहेंगे। धिक्कार और लानत है इन वार्षिक बिलों पर। Thank you so much.
Wow, very nice.
बहुत बढ़िया ऋतु जी, बहुत बढ़िया.
Wonderful translation.
Thank you. ये ओल्ड इंग्लिश है तो जो फ्रेज थे उसके वो थोड़े से ढूंढने मुझे बहुत रिसर्च करनी पड़ी, क्योंकि एग्जैक्टली ट्रांसलेशन आप करते हैं तो एग्जैक्टली वो वर्ड्स नहीं लाते, भाव लाते हैं ना, जैसा तूफैल भाई ने लास्ट टाइम भी समझाया था हम लोगों को. तो आपको पसंद आया मेरा ट्रांसलेशन करना?
बहुत बढ़िया. It was so nice, and your translation was, almost like a mirror of the original poem. So that's great.
Not everyone can translate, ma'am, but those who can, they can't really bring out the true essence of the poem. But you've done a wonderful job. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Many people asked Twain, what advice would you give to aspiring writers who aim to capture the essence of the human experience in their works? He never gave a proper reply. He was always beating around the bush, and he never was to the point. But when you compile all of his quotes from his replies, we get that he always wanted people to write from their own observations and experiences. He wanted people to find the universal truth in the human condition and infuse your stories with authenticity and genuine emotion. And of course, he did not want us to underestimate the power of a good dose of wit and humor. Through many of his essays, he also tried to point out that children are being reformed to become just like everyone else in society. and that their individuality is being suppressed. So he's encouraging children to use their original form and style to write down whatever comes to their mind onto the paper. And he addresses types of teachings for youth that are utilized in every generation, like respecting your elders. And he often introduced all of these topics in his work while talking about what to write and how to write. Shrebanuji, you're our next poet.
Good evening, Likita. Thank you for just introducing me all of a start. Thank you so much. And good evening, Simiji, Tufel Saab, Narendra ji, Anupam Pathak ji, Vibhaji, Zoib ji, and Ritu Sharma, and all those who are present, the acclaimed lovers of Mark Twain. So my poem that I chose today is, which can relate to every woman, I feel, her experiences and her perspective of life. So when I read the extract from the Eve's diary, I felt related that I'm the Eve that Mark Twain is talking about. So Eve's diary is a beautiful piece by Mark Twain, who's the greatest writer of America. It is published in 19605. It's a very entertaining and delightful piece of fiction, but yet it is Mark Twain's personal account and his beliefs. So the diary says that Adam and Eve were the first human beings created on the earth. And Eve was created from Adam's rib to be his companion. And God creates Adam from dust and places him in the Garden of Eden. And Adam is told that he can eat freely of all the trees except for a tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now, Adam and Eve are very innocent and they are unembarrassed about their being naked. Eve eats the fruit of the forbidden tree and gives some fruit to Adam as well. These acts make them lose their innocence and gives them knowledge of shame and evil for they disobeyed God. Therefore, they are expelled from the Garden of Eden, that's the paradise, and they become mortals. Then the diary speaks about the future of the Adam and Eve and how they sinned against God and what happens to them. So here the story gets very interesting. Now the diary is divided into different days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesdays, into different segments. So it starts when the first woman in the Bible, Eve, is 1 day old. Eve feels that she's an experiment and nothing more. She was curious about God's creation that surrounded her, the moon, the mountains, and the stars. Her central nature is love and passion for all things that are beautiful. She said, I do love the moons, pretty and romantic. I wish I had 5, 6. Stars are good, and I can get one of them to put in my hair. Extremely curious, Eve makes some experiment with fire as well and discovers the feeling of fear. She makes long expeditions with animals in the heaven, until she knows that there was another human being named Adam. She started following him. At first, Adam ignored. She said, I love to talk to him. He talks so little. Why is he unkind when I have not done anything to him? It was a mystery. I could not make it out. I wish I could make him understand. A loving heart is riches, and without it, intellect is poverty. Now, Adam and Eve become a very affectionate couple, and Eve considered on the essence of her intimate love, and she loves the masculinity of Adam. Then the story goes on, and then after 40 years later, Eve foresees her death. It ends with Eve's contemplation and prayer. Eve says in her diary, it's my prayer and longing. Now, this is a very important aspect of this diary. I think the most central, focal, and very reflective, which I found. Eve says, it's my prayer and longing, a longing which shall never perish from the earth, but shall have place in the heart of every wife that loves until the end of time, and it shall be called by my name, Eve. But if any one of us must go first, it's my prayer that it shall be I. For Adam is strong and weak. For Adam is strong and I am weak. I am not so necessary to him as he is to me. Life without him would not be life. How could I endure the pain of separation? This prayer is also immortal and will not cease from being offered up until my race continues. I am the first wife of the world, and in the last wife I shall be repeated. Then you know what does Adam's diary says on the death of Eve? He says, whoever she was, there was Eden, there was paradise. Wherever she was, that means there was paradise, wherever Eve resided. So Adam then confesses equal amount of love for Eve. And Mark Twain beautifully portrays the ideal love between a husband and a wife. And by giving Eve a voice, Mark Twain was a supporter of women's suffering and struggles, and he had their contributions recognized. So in the end, the story clearly states that Eve's appreciation of the beauty of nature gives meaning to her, also finds herself drawn to Adam despite of his shortcomings, as he offers her only chance for human connection. And I feel that's how everyone feels when a man meets a woman, whether it's a husband or a wife or a lover or as friends. You know, Adam and Eve lives in every soul, as Mark Twain said. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much. Our next poet is Anupam sir. And they usually say that we save the best for the last. Actually, Anupam sir is a wonderful poet himself, and he has like really unique opinions. I was wondering if I could ask something. Throughout today's program, I have made questions considering this to be a Mark Twain interview. And since we did not have Mark Twain with us tonight, I assumed his answers and told them myself. But there was this one question that I couldn't place my finger on. I couldn't really arrive at an answer for. And I was wondering if you could, or maybe anybody here could maybe help me with coming to an answer, or maybe this could be a discussion. I'm not sure. May I, if it's okay?
Sure, go on.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, please.
We all know that Mark Twain is just his pen name. He really was Samuel Clemens. Do you think Mark Twain ever felt torn between who he really was, Samuel Clemens, and who he played publicly to be, Mark Twain? Did he ever feel the pressure between two of his identities, his writer self or the real himself? I've always wanted to know if any poet or a writer would feel torn to handle two of such identities.
First of all, Likita, thank you for inviting me. And your first question, that you were magnificent throughout, and your questioning, and it was very unique, and it bound us throughout, and we enjoyed every bit of the pieces which you told us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so very
All
much.
information is good. And regarding your second question is that it was Clemens who chose this name. He chose this name, and he knew why he chose this name. So he was never ever confused whether he's Mark Twain or Samuel Clemens. So throughout his life, there was it was us people, like we knew only Mark Twain by his second name. And through discovering, we came to know, through you also, we came to know that he was actually Samuel Clemens as such. And as Naren Chawla just told you, that throughout you were magnificent, and people were saying that you were very good. It was very entertaining, very informative, and we all enjoyed the program, and we all got information, and actually we grew. And the best part was is that eldest and the youngest of the group, they are bringing to the dreams of Mr. Tufal Ahmed true, that they are connecting them to the literature, and it is the best thing which can happen to this group. And that's why this group is very good, and it is growing and growing day by day. I wish them luck. Now, coming to the piece which I want to recite today. We have heard poems and the emotional Mark Twain, but emotional Mark Twain was the least known fact which this group just researched and just brought it forward. Mark Twain, the moment the name Mark Twain comes in the mind, we smile, because he was associated with satire, humor, etc., and he knew how to play with the words. And we have heard very good story, and at the end was very good, and the story told by Shere Banu Akbari was such a good story that everybody was relating them to be the Eve in the Eve's diary. So it was very good.
Definitely. Well researched.
Yeah. So from the childhood, we are told not to lie, but we are to tell the truth. We are admonished. We have been beaten also to tell lies. But at the same time, Mark Twain has used this particular aspect of lying to such a beautiful piece of speech he has given, that he was awarded $30 prize for it. Obviously, he did not choose that, and he did not accept that prize. But then also, whatever he wrote, it just demonstrates the inherent quality of a writer, as a writer, and that always overshadowed his poems. He wrote around 150 poems, but then he is not known for his poems. He is known for the writings. He is known for his speeches, and that these particular speeches, he was driven to these speeches just because of his financial condition. But then also he used his acumen in such a the best manner that he was always a winner throughout. Until today, he is a winner for us. So my piece is his speech, which is written in the book of Stolen White Elephant, on the decay of art of lying. We all lie, no doubt. So he begins his speech like this: observe, I do not mean to suggest that custom of lying has suffered any decay or interruption. No, for the lie as a virtue, as a principle, is eternal. The lie as a recreation, a solace, a refuge in the times of need, the fourth grace and the 10th muse, man's best friend and surest friend, is immortal and cannot perish from the earth while this club remains. My complaint simply concerns the decay of art of lying. No high-minded man, no man of right feeling can contemplate the ill-formed and careless lying of the present day without grieving to see the noble art so misused. In this Verton presence, I naturally enter upon this theme with shyness. It is like an old maid trying to teach nursery matters to the mothers of Israel. It would not become of me to criticize you, gentlemen, who are nearly all my elders and my superiors in this thing, in telling lies. If I should here and there seem to do it, I trust it will be in most cases be more of a spirit of admiration than fault finding. Indeed, if the finest of the finest art had ever received attention and encouragement and careful practice and development which this club has devoted to it, I should not need to utter this lament or shed a single tear. I do not say this to flatter. I say it in the spirit of just and appreciative recognition. It has been my intention at this point to mention names and to give illustrative specimens, but indication observable about me admonish me to beware of the particulars and confine myself to generalities. No fact is more firmly established than that lying is necessity of our circumstances. The deduction that the virtue goes without saying. No virtue can reach its highest usefulness without careful, diligent cultivation. Therefore, it goes without saying that this one ought to be taught in public schools and even in newspapers. What chance the ignorant, uncultivated liar has against educated expert? Judicious lying is what the world needs. I sometimes think it was even better and safer not to lie at all than to lie injudiciously. An awkward, unscientific lie is often as ineffectual as truth. None of us could live with habitual truth teller, but thank God, none of us have to. An habitual truth teller is simply impossible creature. It does not exist. He has never existed. Of course, there are people who think that they never lie, but this is not so. And this ignorance is one of the very things that shapes our so-called civilization. Everybody lies every day, every hour, awake, asleep, in his dreams, in his joy, in his mornings. If he's keeping his tongue still, his hands, his feet, his eyes, his attitude will convey deception and purposely, even sermons. But that is not interesting. I think all this courteous lying is sweet and loving art and should be cultivated. The highest perfection of politeness is only beautiful edifice built from the base to dome of graceful and gilded form of charitable and unselfish lying. What I bemoan is growing prevalence of brutal truth. Let us do what we can eradicate it. Truth is very harmful. An injurious truth has no merit over injurious lie. Neither should be uttered. Among other common lies, we have a silent lie. The deception one conveys by simply keeping and concealing the truth. Many obstinate truth mongers indulge in its spread, imagining that they speak no lie, they lie not at all. Lying is universal. We all do it. Therefore, the wise thing is for us is to diligently train ourselves to lie thoroughly, judiciously, to lie with good object and not an evil one, to lie for others' advantage, not for our own, to lie healingly, charitably, humanly, not cruelly, hurtfully, maliciously, to lie gracefully and graciously, not awkwardly and clumsily, to lie firmly, frankly, squarely, with head erect, not haltingly, tortuously, being ashamed of our high calling. Then shall we be rid of rank of pestilent truth that is rotting our land. Then we will be great and good, beautiful and worthy dwellers in the world, where even benign nature habitually lies, except when she promises bad weather. Then, but I am a new and feeble student in this gracious art. I cannot instruct this club. Jokingly aside, I think there is much need of wiser examination into sort of lies that are best, wholesomest to be indulged, seeing we must all lie, we do all lie, and what sort of it may be best to avoid. That is the thing which I feel I can confidently put into the hands of this experienced club, a ripe body, who may be termed in this regard without undue flattery as old masters. So this was the beauty of Mark Twain. the language, and the way he used the word, the flow to create humor out of nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Very nice, very nice. Well recited.
I mean, who else can give an entire guide on how to lie and how to not lie? None other than Mark Twain, am I right? And also, I was thinking about the question whether Twain ever felt torn between who he really was, between Samuel Clemens and who he played publicly to be, Mark Twain. Imagine walking down the street as Samuel Clemens to join a bunch of people who are talking in praise of Mark Twain. That little ego boost of a person gets there can be replaced actually. And before I hand the stage over to Simi Auntie, there's a couple of lines I'd like to recite. It's called The Warm Summer Sun by Mark Twain, obviously. And it goes like, warm summer sun, shine kindly here. Warm southern wind, blow softly here. Green sod above, lie light, lie light. Good night, dear heart. Good night, good night. This is a poem that expresses the process of aging in life, all the way to life's final moments, like from the beginning to the end. And Mark Twain, he included a lot of imagery here, like even though it's just like a bunch of words put up and down, it holds a lot of depth. And that has been it with Mark Twain tonight. Each one of us had been a Mark Twain. Personally, we're all poets, right? And each one of us in our life, we've played with words and emotions as good as Mark Twain, maybe even better, I don't know. But we all know what poetry is. We all know what Mark Twain's poetry is. We feel the essence. And through all of the poetry recited today, it ranged from happiness, women, socio-economic conditions, history, mythology, and so on. And as poets, all we need to do is keep writing, and we keep writing to keep wonderful poets like Mark Twain alive through us, through our quills and through our words. And I humbly hand the stage over to Simi Auntie.
Thank you so much, Licky doll. Good evening, namaskar. Today's program was very special. Today we celebrated our legend poet, very famous English poet and novelist, Mark Twain. We came to know a lot about him. When we read book, our knowledge increases. What should I say about Licky? She is extraordinary, very talented girl. She has vast knowledge about literature. Whenever she comes, she bangs with her outstanding anchoring. Thank you so much, Miss Licky, for beautiful anchoring. You always surprise us with your outstanding anchoring. All participants were excellent today. They recited Mark Twain poem and a story beautifully. Miss Nishka Sharma, Miss Shrivani, Master Navedya, Master Ajat Shah, Nida ji, Miss Nafisa, Batul ji, Teresa ji, Zoeb ji, Miss Sumela, Miss Shumela, Manoj ji, Pramila ji, Dr. Ritu ji, Narendra Chawla ji, Shere Bano ji, Anupam Pathak ji, and Miss Licky doll. Many children also participated today. They amazed us. Lots of love and blessing to them. Thank you so much, all scholar poet participants to recite Mark Twain poem. Your recitation enhanced our knowledge. Thank you so much, each and everyone. I would like to thank Global President Twain ji. I would like to thank Global Vice President Satish ji and Anupam Ramesh Kingar ji. I would like to thank Global Head Social Media Kapil Batra ji. For media report, I would like to thank Kapil Batra ji, Anupam Ramesh Kingar ji, Anupam Kumar Pathak ji, Shere Banu ji, and Kiran ji. For magazine, I would like to thank Chief Editor Viva ji,
Hindi editor Purnima ji, art design editor Dr. Shalini ji. I would like to thank all regional global president Vibha ji, executive counselor Sharad ji, Khalik ji, Manorma ji, Dr. Meeta ji, and Aniruddha ji. For Mulaqat, I would like to thank Anupam Ramesh Kinga ji for certificate. I would like to thank Manohar ji for CTL. I would like to thank for CTL poster. I would like to thank Zoeb ji for poster and video. I would like to thank Amir Tufail and Arif Tufail. I would like to thank all the mentors, Satish ji, Braj Kishore ji, Kapil Batra ji, Ram Sarup Dikshit ji, Mustaq Sadav ji. I would like to thank all viewers who are watching through the YouTube, and thanks to each and everyone. Let's meet tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Indian time in Mulaqat Ek Azim Shakhsiyat. Our guest will be very talented poet and artist Pallavi Joshi ji from Bahrain, and our host will be PLG Global President Anupam Ramesh Kinga ji. Till then, good night, Shubh Ratri, Sabah Khair.
And with that, signing off from today's program.